And we are live, Senators.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is the Vermont State Senate Committee on Institutions. Today is Wednesday, March 16th, 2022. We are in a series of conversations about what's going into the Capitol bill. We have not got the bill yet, but today we are going to begin our conversation with Susan Evans Mcclure from the Lake Champlain Maritime Museum and Laura Trishman, the State Historic Preservation Officer. I'm going to give both of you some fair warning. This conversation about the Lewis Mcclure may get expanded to some extent because I'm hearing from some folks who may have a difference of opinion on what they want to see happen to the boat. So actually, I'm sorry, I'm in boat mode as a submarine. We were just coming off the floor talking with a bunch of submariners. So the Lewis Mcclure is officially a ship, and I didn't want to disparage her in any way. In any event, for the purpose of our YouTube audience, I'm Joe Benning, the chair of the Committee on Institutions. On our screen, we have Senator Dick Mazza from Grand Isle and Colchester, Senator Russ Ingalls from Essex Orleans, Senator McCormick from Windsor is in the room with me, and Senator Parent from Franklin is also in the room with me. Susan, I'm going to go back to where you first came before us, give a little bit of a biography about yourself and how you fit into this process for our YouTube audience to understand what's going on here today. And then feel free to launch right into the conversation. I had you first on my list. I don't know whether you wanted to start or you wanted Laura to start. That's up to the two of you.
I'll start, and then Laura can jump in if I left out anything. So,
okay. Welcome back.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me. To all of you on the committee, my name is Susan Evans Mcclure. I'm the executive director at Lake Champlain Maritime Museum. The museum, as you've heard me say before, but I'll say again, has been around for just about 35 years, and we're a museum dedicated to looking at the history, ecology, and archaeology of Lake Champlain. And our goal is always to connect those stories directly to individuals so that we can inspire people to build a better future for our entire region and for our communities. So the schooner Lewis Mcclure, no relation to me, although we share a great last name, but it is not related. So the schooner Lewis Mcclure started being constructed on the Burlington waterfront in 2002 and was launched into the water in 2004. The goal of this never before attempted project was to understand our region's unique canal schooners and their history. We wanted to know how they were built and operated, and the economic and cultural and personal impacts that the canals had on our region and people. Since its launch in 2004, the replica sailing canal schooner Lewis Mcclure has toured the region's waterways, bringing this history to local communities around Lake Champlain and connecting waterways and welcoming aboard over 300,000 visitors. And while the project has been an unquestionable success, like all things, we have been assessing the long-term plan for both the ship and the project. Our replica, like any wooden boat, has required increasingly extensive repairs that push beyond the original goals of the replica project. After much discussion and work with our staff, partner museums throughout New York and New England, and professional shipwrights over the past few years, the museum's board of directors voted unanimously at the end of 2021 to retire the replica after the 2023 season and move on to the next phase of interpreting this history in our region. As part of this transition off the water, our team feels strongly that we want to take the time to document and capture the impact of this unique project. I've heard from so many people involved in this project, including some of you on the committee, about what was important and what we learned, and we're really committed to documenting that so it's useful for future researchers. Our team are the only people to have done something like this, and so it's crucial we document everything we've learned so the Schooner Project can continue to be a teaching tool into the future. So just last week, as you may have seen, we officially launched the Schooner Lewis Mcclure Archiving Project to preserve everything we learned and experienced, to conduct oral history interviews with crew and volunteers, and to invite everyone in the public to participate in sharing their memories of the Lewis. Our goal is to make the information we document available to both the public and to researchers. This will help us better understand our region's 200-year history from the opening of the Champlain Canal in 1823 to the replica Mcclure and into the future. It also gives us the opportunity to celebrate the replica and the people who built it and the community that has grown up around it. The average lifespan of 19th century canal boats was just about 15 years, and this boat is almost to 20. So we're facing some very historically accurate problems. And it's important to us as a community institution to work hand in hand with our community as we move forward to the next phase of the schooner project. As Senator Benning mentioned, I looked at the schedule. It looks like we will be hearing later this week from one of the museum's former volunteer crew members on the schooner. This project has meant a lot to so many people, and they're very committed to it. And the museum believes that our decision that we're making with the future of the boat is the best for the boat, for the project, and for the public. And it's not just the museum making this decision. It's our leading donors, our supporters, our community partners who are all fully behind this effort. So the Lois will be on the water and open to the public at the museum this summer, starting May 21st, and then next summer. And then she'll come off the water at the end of 2023. At that time, our intent is to reuse pieces of the vessel as interpretive tools in a new exhibit that will open in 2024 that will really focus on being accessible to all visitors. Replica boats, while incredible teaching tools, are inherently not accessible. There was no Americans with Disabilities Act in 1862. And our team has absolutely done our best for as long as possible to be as accessible as possible. But with this transition off the water, we have a new opportunity to be fully accessible in every way. While nothing will ever be the same as standing on the deck of the Lois and feeling the wind from the lake, our goal is to create an exhibit experience that is accessible to everyone and that is developed with input from our community through the archiving project process. As a museum firmly situated in Vermont, we are committed to continuing to research and share this unique story of sailing canal boats, the industry, and most importantly, the people for many years to come, and doing that in a way that everyone can experience. So I hope that you'll join us at the museum when we open on May 21st this summer to see the Lois on the water, and that you'll all participate in our archiving project. I know so many of you have seen the boat on the water over the years as well, and we'd love to hear your thoughts.
Thank you. Committee, any questions? Senator McCormick.
Nice. Could you go into some details? As you're saying it has aged out. What specifically is wrong with it that it can't continue to be used?
Yeah, so we brought in a professional shipwright last summer to look at the boat and assess the cost that would need for the repairs. So there's some rot. It's a wooden boat. Wooden boats rot over time. So there would need to be, we're looking at about $150,000 of immediate repairs within the next 2 years. And then consistently every 3 years after that for the future, there would have to be major reconstruction at that level and beyond. You can keep a wooden boat on the water forever as long as you're constantly rebuilding it and incurring the costs that go along with that. On top of the costs to maintain it and kind of be rebuilding it, we also have substantial annual costs to keep it on the water and safe and staffed. So both of those were things that we were looking at as we were looking at the longevity of the project. So I don't want to, cost is a factor. It is not all about cost. It's also some of the other things I mentioned that we're thinking about. It's been 20 years since we started this. What's the new way we want to be interpreting this as a museum and as an institution? And for us, that new way is really building an accessible visitor experience in exhibit form.
Well, okay, I understand you that it would cost a lot to repair the problems. I still don't know what the problems are. There's some rot in the wood. I mean, isn't that the case with any boat, any wooden boat? You got to fight rot. It's in the water. My stepfather had a boat, fishing boat. He never got out on the water on it. He spent his life sanding it, painting it, caulking it.
Yes, and that's not what we want to do with our project. We want to be focused on interpreting it with the public. So, and if that is something I can look up quickly, is all the technical pieces of things that we need to fix. But it actually, I'm happy to share that and say, it's this part, it's this part. And even if I list that now, it'll be another list in another 2 years. So the reason that we're making this decision is, it's the immediate list, but it's really the future of the project. And instead of focusing our museum resources and effort on that one piece of the project, what we're choosing to do is focus on the larger story. And how can we continue to sustainably tell that larger story for the largest audience possible, which is with it in an exhibit.
Yeah, that I don't want to take more committee time or of your time right now. If you could, at your convenience, get it. Well, maybe not at your convenience, because we have to decide before we adjourn in the spring. If you could get that list, that would be good.
Yeah, and I just want to confirm that we're not asking, there's no request for funds in the budget for this. When I sent that letter, it was to thank the committee. We have requested funds from the state before, and that's something that we were very appreciative of. So when I sent that letter to the committee, it was we wanted to make sure you knew this was happening, to invite your participation in the project, but there's no request for funding because we work with Laura's office, the State Historic Preservation Office, and there's no request for funding in this year's budget for this.
That's an asset you want to do away with.
It's a museum, the museum owned asset that we're actually transitioning off the water. So it'll still be listed as, it'll still have a value on our asset sheet. It'll be different, and it's a museum owned asset.
So Susan, if I can ask the game plan, if you will, obviously you're talking about disassembling the ship for whatever portions can be broken up to display it properly. Do you have space at the museum to have that done properly?
So that's one of the, we're not sure the logistics of how that's going to happen. And that's why we wanted to announce now, so that we could be as public as possible about this process. Because we're going to be spending, our team of experts will be bringing in outside experts to figure that out between now and the end of 2023 of how that will work. It was really important to us that, this has been a public project since its inception. What we didn't want to do was be behind closed doors and make a plan and then come out and say, hey, this is what's happening. Instead, we wanted to say, hey, this is the reality of the situation we're in. We have until the end of 2023 to take it off the water for all these reasons. We want to hear your stories, and we're going to be working on that plan. So we're developing how the exhibit's going to be laid out right now. And then we'll be working with experts to figure out how to do that, that piece of taking it off the water and what that will look like.
Okay. The conversation, does it continue, or is that the official decision of the museum at this point?
It's the official decision of the museum. And the conversation that is continuing is that we want to know what resonates with people about this topic. So I think you ask, as much as I hate to think this, you ask 5 people about canal boats, 4 of them will probably say, what is a canal boat? And 1 will tell you more about canal boats than even I know. So what we'll be doing over the next year and a half, 2 years, is asking for input as we develop an exhibit. And that's what, our museum, all of our partner museums in Vermont, all of Laura's historic sites, when we develop public interpretation, the public is at the heart of that. So we announced now so that we could start connecting with the public and saying, what is important to you about this? What should we focus on in the exhibit? What do you want to see? And then be developing our new interpretation with that in mind.
Okay. Any other questions, committee? Susan, thank you very much. I'll give you the heads up that I did earlier. I've been contacted by a second person who was part of the building process, and I have told them that I will give them some airtime, so to speak. I'm sure that there will be some continuing conversation, at least in the world of the Lewis Mcclure. I'm certainly not going to get in the way of what the museum decides to do, but this committee is involved with a lot of different historic projects, and I do like to be aware of what's going on, so we appreciate you coming by. Laura, welcome back. Is it just my imagination, or is this the second year in a row we've had a slight kerfuffle about a vote?
Yes, this is the second year in a row. Yes.
Well, I'm not sure what you'd like to add to the conversation, but I'm interested in hearing.
Thank you very much. For the record, my name is Laura Treishman. I'm the State Historic Preservation Officer. Our involvement with the Lake Champlain Maritime Museum is really very strong. They're one of our greatest partners, and I really attribute a lot of that to Susan and her outreach and education programs. I think the Lewis Mcclure was a really fabulous program and is been important. And there's been a lot of learning. There's been a lot of funding put into it. The Department of Tourism and Marketing at ACCD gave close to $150,000 for the touring programs. I know the Basin program is a supporter. There's the National Park Service as well. as well as the Division for Historic Preservation. But I think, as you know, with major maintenance of any resource, whether it be a boat or a building, it's ongoing. And I feel that Susan and her team have done a great job in outreach and understanding of the new way to rehabilitate this resource so that it can continue to educate and be inviting for people who may not have experienced it on the water. Because at this point, now we're putting more money into the restoration of the Mcclure, where we should be instead putting that into education and outreach. You will remember in 2018, 2019, over $100,000 came through our office, through the capital bill, with your blessing, for the renovation of, or I guess restoration of the Lewis Mcclure. So I think that money, through Susan's outreach and education, can be used in a better, different ways when such funding is provided. So I really applaud the outreach that she's been doing and finding a new life for this. This has been a very difficult decision for her. And I understand the passion of people who've been involved with it from the very start. But I think this way it really has a great life moving forward, and we're in full support and will continue to be partners with them.
Can you refresh my recollection? Both of you were earlier this year seeking a sum of money, and specifically in this instance for the preservation of more wrecks on the floor of Lake Champlain. Can you refresh my recollection of what that was about?
That is the opening for new underwater preserves, also ensuring that we're able to research potential other ones to open, and most importantly, the ongoing maintenance of the sites that we already have open to the public. When the divers went and closed up the sites for the season this past year, they noted that a number of the moorings, a number of the anchors, a number of the buoys really were in need of replacement. And this program has been cut a little bit over the years, but the need to maintain the existing preserves as well as open new ones is putting pressure on the program. And we're having to take some of that money from other resources that we really shouldn't be, like at the Maritime museums and also our state historic sites. So we estimated about $45,000 a year should be designated to that program, because that will ensure public safety, preservation of these resources, tourism, just pure enjoyment, and also documentation of them and the opening of new ones, because they're much easier to locate these days.
So was that pitch made to the governor and subsequently in the governor's recommend?
It was not.
Okay, to date, has it been made to our House counterparts?
Not officially, no. They focused on major maintenance at the state historic sites.
Okay. Well, we might invite you back at some point when we actually get the bill. That's one of our frustrating situations in this committee. We have to wait for the bill to get here and see what they've done to it first, but we'll have some more conversation about that. I'd like to leave you something as part of my legacy, so we'll see what happens.
Thank you. Thank you for your support and interest.
Committee, any other questions? Well, Senator McClure.
Could you sell it?
So as part of, as Laura mentioned, this was not a snap decision in any way. We've been working on this, getting to this point for the past several years. I have had honestly, it's been a real pleasure to reach out to every museum, every interested party along the Erie Canal on the lake that we could think of. And even beyond selling it, could we find a partnership where someone would want to take it and take on that responsibility of maintenance? There is no other organization that we have found that has the capacity to do that or the interest or ability. The other side of that is that this story is it's a Vermont story, and we want it to stay here, and we want to be able to continue telling that story using this amazing resource that was built by members of our community in a new way. So we have not been able to find anyone who will take it or buy it. And we also want to keep using it to tell this story in a new way at the museum.
Thank you.
So you can't name it the SS Mazda and charge money for people coming aboard?
That'd be a great-
He's gonna put a store on it and now it's saying.
The only thing I do with boats, I ride the ferry once a year or twice.
All right, ladies, thank you again for coming to join us this afternoon. I'm sure we'll be continuing the conversation.
Great. Thank you so much for having us and for your interest and support in the project.
Thank you.
Thank you. Committee, we have our next guest at 2:15, which is about 9 minutes from now. So Alex, if you want to take us offline for 5 minutes, we'll come back on in 5.